If you ever find yourself wandering along the beautiful shoreline of Oslo, your eyes will surely be drawn to a magnificent structure. It sits proudly on a headland, a rocky finger of land pointing out into the Oslo fjord. This is Akershus Fortress. It is a place where stone walls seem to grow right out of the earth, telling a story that spans over 700 years. For centuries, this fortress has watched over the city, a steadfast guardian against invaders from the sea. Its strategic position was no accident. It was chosen to control the waterway, the very lifeblood of Oslo, ensuring that no enemy ship could approach the city unchallenged. It's more than just a collection of old buildings. It is the heart of Norway's history. The importance of Akershus Fortress to Norway cannot be overstated. It is a powerful symbol of the nation's sovereignty and its long, often difficult journey to independence. Walking through its gates is like stepping back in time. You can almost hear the echoes of marching soldiers, the clang of a blacksmith's hammer, or the whispered conversations of kings and queens in its grand halls. This place has been a royal castle, a formidable military fortress, a dreaded prison, and later a site of national remembrance and celebration. Its story is the story of Oslo itself, and indeed the story of Norway. It represents strength, resilience, and the enduring spirit of the Norwegian people. From its high walls, you can see the modern city sprawling around it. You can see the sleek lines of the opera house and the bustling city streets. This contrast between the old and the new is what makes Akershus so special. It reminds us that while cities change and grow, the foundations of their history remain. The fortress connects the Norway of today with its deep and complex past. It serves as a physical timeline where every stone and every courtyard has a tale to tell. It has witnessed plagues, wars, royal weddings, and political turmoil, standing firm through it all. It is a living museum, a place of government, and a park for the people. As we begin our journey through its history, we will uncover the many layers of this incredible place. We will explore its origins as a medieval stronghold, built out of necessity and fear. We will see how it was transformed into a magnificent Renaissance palace, a statement of power and prestige. We will learn of the sieges it endured and the dark times it witnessed, but we will also discover its role as a place of reconciliation and national pride. Akershus Fortress is not just a landmark, it is a national treasure, a keeper of secrets and a testament to Norway's unbreakable will to survive and thrive against all odds. The story of Akershus begins in the late 13th century, a time of great upheaval for Oslo. The city was not yet the grand capital we know today. It was a smaller, vulnerable settlement. In 1287, a dramatic event sent shockwaves through the kingdom. A Norwegian nobleman, Alv Erlingsson, who had turned to piracy, sailed his fleet up the fjord. He attacked the old city of Oslo and burned it to the ground. This devastating raid made one thing painfully clear. Oslo needed a stronger defense. It needed a fortress that could protect it from enemies both foreign and domestic. The man who would provide this was King Håkon V Magnusson, a ruler with great foresight and determination. King Håkon V knew that a new fortress had to be built, and it had to be built quickly. He chose the perfect location, the rocky promontory of Akershus, which offered a commanding view of the sea approaches. Construction began around the year 1299. This was not just about building walls, it was about creating a new center of power for the kingdom. The king decided to move his royal residence from the old, vulnerable Kongsgard estate to this new, secure fortress. This was a significant move. It signaled that the monarchy was establishing a permanent, powerful presence in Oslo, making the city the de facto capital of Norway. The earliest fortress was a classic medieval castle, built for function over comfort. Its design was practical and formidable. It featured a strong central keep, which was the heart of the castle, surrounded by thick stone walls. These walls were built with local stone, giving the fortress a rugged natural appearance that blended with the landscape. Life inside would have been stark and focused on defense. Soldiers would patrol the battlements, always watching the fjord for any sign of trouble. The castle was designed to be self-sufficient during a siege, with its own well for water and storerooms for food. It was a statement in stone, telling the world that Oslo was protected. The first written record we have that mentions the fortress comes from a letter written by King Håkon V in 1300. In this letter he mentions the castle at Oslo, confirming its existence and its importance to him. This document is a vital link to the fortress's earliest days. It proves that within a very short time the king's vision was becoming a reality. Akershus was no longer just an idea, it was a physical structure, a new royal seat, and the beginning of a new era for Oslo. From these humble but strong beginnings, the fortress would grow in size and significance, shaping the destiny of the city and the nation for centuries to come. Throughout the Middle Ages, Akershus fortress proved its worth time and time again. It was not just a royal home, it was the primary military defense for the entire region. Its strong walls and strategic location made it a formidable obstacle for any army that dared to attack Oslo. One of the most significant tests of its strength came in 1308. A powerful Swedish duke, Erik of Södermanland, laid siege to the fortress. He wanted to seize control of this strategic prize. The siege was long and brutal, pushing the defenders to their limits, but the castle's design held firm. The walls did not crumble, and the garrison inside refused to surrender. The siege of 1308 ended in failure for the Swedish forces. They were eventually forced to retreat, unable to breach the fortress's defenses. This victory was incredibly important. It cemented the reputation of Akershus as an impregnable stronghold. It sent a clear message to Norway's neighbors that Oslo was no longer an easy target. The fortress had become the city's shield. Over the next few centuries it would face several more sieges, particularly from Swedish forces who often contested Norwegian sovereignty. Yet remarkably, Akershus fortress was never taken by a foreign enemy through force of arms. It always held out, a symbol of Norwegian defiance and resilience. As its military reputation grew, so did its political importance. The fortress became the administrative heart of Norway. It was here that the kingdom's chancellery was located, where royal decrees were issued and where taxes were collected. The Constable of Akershus was one of the most powerful figures in the country, second only to the king himself. He governed a large part of eastern Norway from within these walls. The fortress was the center of royal power, a place where important decisions about war, peace, and law were made. Its halls witnessed the comings and goings of nobles, bishops, and diplomats from across the country and beyond. Life within the medieval fortress was a microcosm of society. It was a bustling community of soldiers, servants, craftsmen, and officials. The royal family would reside there for periods, bringing with them a large and colorful court. Tournaments might be held in the outer bailies, while deep within the castle, scribes would be busy copying important documents. But its primary role was always defense. The garrison was kept in a constant state of readiness. The walls were regularly maintained and improved, ensuring that the fortress remained a state-of-the-art defensive structure for its time. It was this constant vigilance that guaranteed its survival and the safety of the city it protected. The transition from the Middle Ages to the Renaissance brought great changes across Europe, and Akershus fortress was no exception. By the early 17th century, the old medieval castle was seen as outdated and gloomy. King Christian IV, the dynamic and ambitious ruler of the dual kingdom of Denmark-Norway, had a grand vision. He wanted to transform the grim, functional fortress into a magnificent Renaissance palace. He was a king known for his passion for building, and Akershus became one of his most important projects. His goal was to create a residence that reflected his power and the sophistication of his court. Beginning around 1624, a massive rebuilding program began. This was the same year that a great fire destroyed the old city of Oslo. Christian IV seized the opportunity to move the entire city closer to the protective walls of his fortress, renaming it Christiania in his own honor. The fortress itself was extensively remodeled. The medieval keep was encased in new structures, and its dark, cramped rooms were replaced with elegant halls and chambers. New towers with distinctive spires were added, changing the fortress's silhouette against the skyline. The focus shifted from purely military function to include royal comfort and representation. One of the most significant changes was the addition of powerful new defensive works. The age of gunpowder and artillery had made medieval walls vulnerable. Christian IV understood this well. He ordered the construction of a modern system of bastions, which are large, pointed earthworks designed to deflect cannon fire and provide platforms for the fortress's own guns. These bastions, such as the Prince's Bastion and the Queen's Bastion, surrounded the core castle, creating a star-shaped defense system. This made Akershus a cutting-edge military installation for its time, capable of withstanding the most powerful artillery attacks of the 17th century. Inside the castle, the transformation was just as dramatic. Magnificent new halls were created, such as the Romerike Hall and the Christian IV Hall. These rooms were designed for hosting grand banquets, royal audiences, and state functions. They featured large windows that let in light, ornate decorations, and fine furnishings. The fortress was no longer just a place of war, it was a stage for the theater of monarchy. King Christian IV had successfully blended the old with the new. He preserved the fortress's military strength while giving it the elegance and splendor of a modern Renaissance palace, a dual role it would maintain for centuries to come. The 17th and 18th centuries were honestly a pretty turbulent time for Scandinavia, marked by frequent wars between Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. Akershus fortress, remained at the center of these conflicts, a key strategic asset that was highly coveted by the Swedes. Its newly updated Renaissance defenses were put to the ultimate test during the Great Northern War, which was a widespread conflict that engulfed northern Europe in the early 1700s. The most famous and dramatic siege in the fortress's history took place in 1716. The warrior king of Sweden, Charles XII, led a powerful army into Norway with the aim of capturing Christiania and its mighty fortress. In March 1716, Charles XII's army arrived outside the city. The Norwegian defenders, outnumbered, made the difficult decision to abandon the city of Christiania itself. They retreated behind the formidable walls of Akershus fortress, preparing for a long and desperate siege. The Swedish king was confident of a swift victory. He set up his artillery and began a relentless bombardment of the fortress. For weeks, cannonballs rained down on the bastions and walls. The noise would have been deafening, the air thick with smoke and the smell of gunpowder. The Swedish soldiers launched several direct assaults, trying to storm the walls, but each attack was bravely repelled by the Norwegian garrison. The defenders of Akershus showed incredible courage and determination. They endured the constant shelling and fought off every attack. They knew that if the fortress fell, Norway would fall with it. The siege dragged on, but the fortress held strong. The modern bastions built by Christian IV proved their worth, absorbing the punishment from the Swedish cannons. Inside, the garrison rationed their food and ammunition, holding out hope for relief. Their defiance frustrated Charles XII, who had expected an easy conquest. He had underestimated the strength of the fortress and the spirit of its defenders. This was a battle of wills as much as a battle of arms. The turning point came when Norwegian forces managed to attack the Swedish supply lines from the sea. Unable to sustain the long siege and facing a determined enemy that refused to break, Charles XII was finally forced to admit defeat. In late April, he lifted the siege and marched his army away from Christiania. The defenders of Akershus had won a stunning victory against one of the most feared armies in Europe. The siege of 1716 became a legendary event in Norwegian history. It confirmed once and for all the fortress's reputation as the invincible guardian of the capital, a symbol of national resistance that could not be broken. As the 18th century gave way to the 19th, the role of Akershus fortress began to change once more. The constant threat of major wars with Sweden diminished, especially after Norway entered a union with Sweden in 1814. The fortress's primary function as a royal residence had long since faded. Instead, it was increasingly used as a military base and, most infamously, as a national prison. Its thick walls, once designed to keep enemies out, were now used to keep prisoners in. The fortress became a place associated with punishment and confinement, casting a long, dark shadow over its history. The prison at Akershus held a wide variety of inmates. These included common criminals, political dissenters, and people accused of serious crimes. One of its most famous prisoners was the Norwegian folk hero Gjest Bardson, a master thief and escape artist who was held here in the 19th century. But the most notorious part of the prison was an area known as the slavery, or slaveriet. This was not a place of chattel slavery as we might think of it today, but rather a facility for convicts sentenced to hard labor. The conditions were horrific. Prisoners were often chained, poorly fed, and forced to work on public projects under brutal supervision. It was honestly a place of despair and suffering. Alongside its role as a prison, Akershus remained the country's most important military installation. It housed barracks for soldiers, arsenals for weapons and ammunition, and training grounds for the Norwegian army. The fortress was the headquarters for the military command, and its grounds were a constant hive of activity, with drills, parades, and the daily routines of military life. This dual function as both a prison and a military base defined the fortress throughout the 19th and early 20th centuries. It was a symbol of the state's power, both to defend the nation from external threats and to enforce law and order within its borders. The use of Akershus as a prison eventually came to an end, with the main penal functions ceasing in the mid-19th century and the slavery being demolished. However, its reputation lingered. This period represents one of the darker chapters in the fortress's long story. It reminds us that places of power can be used for different purposes, and that a structure built for glorious defense can also become a site of human misery. This complex history adds another layer to our understanding of Akershus, showing it not just as a heroic symbol, but as a place that has reflected all aspects of Norway's national life, both the proud and the painful. The 20th century brought the darkest period in the long history of Akershus Fortress. On April 9, 1940, Nazi Germany invaded neutral Norway. As German forces entered Oslo, the fortress surrendered without a fight to avoid the destruction of the city. For the next 5 years, the Norwegian flag was lowered, and the swastika flag flew over the ancient walls. The fortress, for centuries a symbol of Norwegian sovereignty, became the headquarters for the German occupation forces. This was a profound and painful humiliation for the Norwegian people. The guardian of the nation was now in the hands of the enemy. During the occupation, the Nazis used Akershus for their own brutal purposes. It became a prison and an execution site for members of the Norwegian resistance movement. Many brave men and women who fought against the occupation were imprisoned in its cold cells, interrogated, and tortured. In a place called Retterstedet, or the place of execution, many Norwegian patriots were shot. The fortress, which had stood as a shield for Oslo, was turned into an instrument of terror against its own people. The names of those who were executed here are now commemorated on a memorial plaque, a solemn reminder of the price of freedom. The fortress also became the stage for one of the most significant events in modern Norwegian history after the war. Following Germany's surrender in May 1945, the fortress was handed back to the Norwegian resistance. Soon after, it was used to imprison and try Norwegian collaborators who had worked with the Nazis. The most infamous of these was Vidkun Quisling, the leader of Norway's puppet government during the occupation. His name has become an international word for a traitor. Quisling was held at Akershus, tried for treason, and ultimately executed by firing squad at the very same spot where the Nazis had executed his countrymen. The liberation of Akershus on May 11, 1945, was a moment of immense symbolic importance. The sight of the Norwegian flag being raised over the fortress once again marked the end of 5 years of darkness and the restoration of Norway's freedom. The post-war trials held there represented a national reckoning, an attempt to find justice after the trauma of occupation. This period forever changed the meaning of Akershus. It was no longer just a historical monument, it had become a sacred place of national memory, a symbol of both the suffering of occupation and the ultimate triumph of resistance and liberty. Deep within the historic walls of Akershus Fortress lies a site of great national and royal significance, the Royal Mausoleum. This special crypt is located beneath the castle church, a beautiful chapel that has served the fortress for centuries. The decision to create a final resting place for Norway's modern royal family here was made in the early 20th century, after Norway regained its full independence in 1905. The fortress, as the historical heart of the kingdom, was seen as the most fitting location. It connects the new independent monarchy with the long line of Norwegian kings and queens of the past. The Royal Mausoleum was consecrated in 1949. It is a place of quiet dignity and solemn remembrance. Here lie the remains of some of Norway's most beloved modern monarchs. King Haakon VII, who was the first king of Norway after the dissolution of the union with Sweden, is buried here alongside his British-born wife, Queen Maud. Their leadership during the difficult years of World War II, when they led the government in exile from London, made them powerful symbols of Norwegian resistance. Their tomb is a focal point of the mausoleum, representing the foundation of the modern Norwegian royal house. Also resting in the mausoleum are King Olav V, the son of Haakon and Maud, and his wife, Crown Princess Martha. King Olav, known as the People's King, was immensely popular during his long reign. He was an approachable and down-to-earth monarch who won the hearts of his people. His wife, Crown Princess Martha, who was a Swedish princess, sadly passed away before he ascended the throne and never became queen. Their shared tomb lies opposite his parents. The mausoleum is designed with two main sections, one holding the white marble sarcophagi of Hakon VII and Maud, and another for Olav V and Martha. The castle church and the mausoleum are not just places of burial, they also play an important role in the ceremonial life of the nation. The church is used for special military services and other official events. The presence of the royal mausoleum makes Akershus a central site for the monarchy. It is a place where the royal family's past and present converge. By choosing to be buried within this ancient fortress, the modern Norwegian royals have physically and symbolically linked their destinies with the long and resilient history of their nation, ensuring that the story of the monarchy and the story of Akershus remain forever intertwined. Today, Akershus Fortress has entered a new and vibrant chapter in its long life. While it remains an active military area and the site of important government offices, including the Norwegian Ministry of Defense, it has also been opened up to the public. It has been transformed from a closed-off military stronghold into one of Oslo's most beloved recreational areas and cultural attractions. The imposing gates, which once stood to keep people out, now welcome thousands of visitors from all over the world every year. It has truly become a fortress for the people, a place where history is accessible to everyone. Walking through the fortress grounds is a journey through time. You can explore the medieval castle, wander through the elegant Renaissance halls, and climb the ramparts to enjoy stunning views of the city and the fjord. The site houses two excellent museums. The Norwegian Armed Forces Museum tells the story of Norway's military history from the Viking Age to the present day. The Norwegian Resistance Museum, located in a building that was once a prison, offers a poignant and powerful account of the occupation years during World War II. These museums provide context and depth to the history that is written in the very stones of the fortress. But Akershus is not just a place for quiet reflection on the past. It is a living, breathing part of modern Oslo. The vast courtyards and green spaces are used for a wide range of public events. In the summer, the fortress hosts outdoor concerts, theatrical performances, and major national celebrations, such as Constitution Day on May 17th. The sound of music and laughter now fills the air in places that once echoed with the sounds of battle. This transformation shows how historic sites can be adapted to serve the needs of a contemporary society, while still honoring their heritage. In the end, Akershus Fortress stands as a powerful and enduring symbol of Norway itself. Its ability to survive sieges, occupations, and the passage of time reflects the nation's own resilience and strength. It is a testament to the Norwegian spirit of endurance and the unwavering desire for sovereignty. From a medieval king's defensive vision to a modern cultural hub, Akershus has worn many faces. It is a guardian, a palace, a prison, and a memorial. Today, it is above all a gift to the nation. A place where every Norwegian can connect with their history, celebrate their freedom, and draw inspiration from the timeless guardian on the fjord.